feel like maybe if I hold it all the way down here, my levels are so high. Hi, how are you? I'm back on my bullshit, baby. We're here for another writing advice video. We've got the backwards baseball cap. We have the chaotic, exhausted energy that we have come to love in these videos, and I want to talk about plot. Here's the thing. I hate writing advice. I hate giving it. I love receiving it in the context of when someone reads my work and then gives me critique and tells me how to fix the very specific things that have to do with whatever story they are reading. But I really don't like it because the truth is no one can tell you how to write your story. No one can tell you how to create your art. It's kind of something that you have to figure out for yourself. In my humble opinion, there's absolutely no right or wrong way when it comes to creating art. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. But here I am, offering another video filled with writing advice. This time, I want to talk about plot, baby. I want to talk about how I come up with these little stories in my head. If you were to travel back in time to young Megan, it would probably surprise you to find out that while I have always wanted to be a writer, I've never specifically wanted to publish a book. I never set out to be a fiction writer. I always just assumed I didn't have enough imagination for it, which is one of the reasons why young Megan got into journalism, because with journalism, the stories are all there. You have the meat and the potatoes of the story. You just have to construct a narrative around it. And I loved writing. I love writing. I guess I just got it in my head that I wasn't imaginative enough to come up with things, which I don't know why, because saying it now feels so wrong. That feels so wrong. It doesn't make any sense because I believe everyone has imagination. And I wish I could go back in time and tell young Megan, you're doing fine and you can make stuff up, because that's all this is making stuff up. And boy, oh boy, do I love it. For context, if you are new here, I am writing a series right now, an adult epic fantasy series. I'm working on the second book in the series. I finished the first book. No, it has not been published yet. I really want to publish it once I've written more into the stories, because I don't want to George R.R. Martin anybody. I really want the stories to come out in a consecutive fashion, and I don't want anyone to be left waiting for the final book, because that's no fun for anybody. So I know a little bit about writing. That's my defense here. I know a little bit about writing, so please listen to me. We're here to talk about making shit up. We're here to talk about plot. You have the drive to write a story, but you have absolutely no idea how to sit down and come up with the plot. The plot is what the story is about. It is what drives the narrative. It is one of the major elements that you need to tell a story. We could talk about characters. We could talk about how you should build a narrative. We could talk about the idea of storytelling. Plot is what happens in the story, is the action, is carrying the story through. And that can be really intimidating and hard to come up with. Believe me, it's probably the thing I struggle with the most. So let's talk about some tips that I have. And again, keeping in line with these videos, it's a completely random number. I have no idea why I came up with 7, but there are 7 tips. So let's get into them. The very first thing that I do, the thing that I would tell anybody to do when you want to tell a story, any kind of story, a book, a short story, anything, start at the end. That is what I always do. With any story, with any book that I've ever written, I have known the ending. I've gone into writing with a very, very clear last scene in my mind. I don't know how else to write a story without that. The ending is where you are going. It is the drive of your story. It is the whole point that you are writing towards. And for me, I find it significantly easier. And I find it significantly easier when I'm staring at the blank page to get out of that fear, because I know where I'm going and I focus back on what the story is driving towards. As long as I know where I'm going, I can kind of figure out how to get there. It's kind of like when you're driving. When you know where you're going, it's a lot easier to drive, right? Right. This is the kind of genius writing advice you've signed up for. That being said, I don't write the scene out. I just know where I want to take the stories. I have an idea for the ending for all of the books in the series that I'm writing. I know how this is going to end, and it just makes it so much easier to fill in all the little bits in between. So you don't have to write the ending scene. I don't think that's necessary, but I do think that you should have an idea of where you want your story to go before you set out to write it, because otherwise you're going to waffle. And I stopped myself there because I got into the habit of being like, you need to do this, you should do this. No. Take it or leave it. But that being said, I do just find it easier for me to know where I'm going and knowing the ending. Sound good? Let's get into tip number 2. So this is kind of like a play on the rule of threes. I think that this is a rule that exists, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think I've invented the wheel here, but I do notice in my writing that I do follow a basic plot structure, and that is to say that about every quarter of my book, something major happens, a turning point. Whether it is introducing a new character, whether it is a character ending up in a new place, whether it is something being discovered. Every quarter I find something major kind of has to happen for me as a writer, or I lose wind a little bit and I get a little like drifty in my narrative. And so every quarter I come up with some kind of major plot point. This is the next step after coming up with my ending, because what I do is I go, okay, so this is where it's going to end. What are some major points that need to happen in order for them to get to this place? So for instance, let's say the book is going to end with a major betrayal in a new place and your main character is going to be lost and alone. You have to figure out how to get them to, You have to figure out how to get them to the place where they will be betrayed and left alone. And so you have to come up with some major plot points to get them there. I would say like max 4, because otherwise I feel like that's too much action for me. I like a little bit of a slow narrative. I would say like maybe 4, because otherwise I feel like I'm kind of overthinking it. But like 4 major plot points plus the ending, good to go. I've got a basic structure of a book. Okay, so number 3, after that, you have the ending, you have the major plot points, and now you gotta fill in all the other little things that happen. And that is where I feel like people get really overwhelmed. And rightfully so. I mean, I do too. I feel like coming up with plot is an incredibly difficult thing. You have to like put your characters through things in order for it to be interesting. They can't just be living their lives. So now we have to build things. We have to come up with shit that happens that isn't the big shit, but is still interesting enough shit that will carry us through. Are you with me? Is this good? I don't know. How do I come up with the shit? How do I come up with the tiny little shit that carries us through the narrative? I'm gonna stop saying that, but it was really fun while it lasted, wasn't it? So this is where you have to figure out what kind of writer you are. And not only that, how your project wants to be written. Does it want to be more of a discovery narrative where you are finding out things about your characters as these scenes unravel? If so, you kind of have to be okay with letting yourself overwrite. You have to let yourself wobble and wander and delete things and go back and just work out the vibes until a plot appears. And that's okay. That's not wrong. If you are trying to write a book quickly for some reason and you just want to get it down and you don't want to waste time, I don't really have advice for that other than just like really plot out absolutely everything then, because I feel like that would be the only way to do something like that. But I'm here officially to tell you that it is okay to overwrite a little bit. It's okay to wander. It's okay to have some time to get to know your characters, because one of the only ways I've ever been able to get to know my characters is by spending so much time with them on paper and writing moments that don't end up in the final draft and letting myself see the world that I'm building through their eyes and really, really refining their voice in that way. And you'll find a plot. It will happen. I know it doesn't feel like it will happen, but it will happen. A plot will appear. So long as you know where you're going, so long as you know where your characters need to end up, so long as you know those 4 points. Maybe you don't overwrite. Maybe you're just an underwriter and you just write those 4 points and then you write scenes to get them to that point. The point is that it's a mixture of following the inspiration, but also doing the dirty work of telling a story. For me, scene ideas come in a number of different ways. The best scene ideas come from inspiration. They come from a line in my head that I can't get rid of. They come from a scene where I see my characters interacting in a way and I know I want to write it. The not so fun times are the times where I know I need to get them to a point. They need to talk about something. My character needs to leave to do something else. My character needs to like use her magic to do something. Those scenes are more of a practical writing experience, and that comes with practice, it comes with time, and it takes a little bit of fighting imposter syndrome to deal with those moments, but the more you practice, the more you work on those moments, the better it is. I hope that's making sense. Basically what I'm trying to say is there's 2 ways I construct scenes. One is pure vibes, inspiration, I'm in the flow, I'm a writing goddess, I feel really great. The other time is it's time to be practical, these characters need to do something, this needs to happen. Both are good in their own way, both refine my skill as a writer, but one is a little bit more enjoyable than the other. The fundamental key is knowing where your characters are going. That is where you need to take yourself back to every single time. And let's talk about it in really practical terms. Literally, where are they going? Are they going to work? Are they going home? Are they staring at water, thinking about their past? Are they going to a cemetery? Are they eating? Are they making themselves food? What are they doing? What is the practical thing that they're doing in the scene? What is the action that you can write? And how can you view that moment through your character's eyes? That's what's going to make it interesting. It's not necessarily the what they're doing, it's the being inside the character's head, at least for me, because I'm a big character reader. So let's say you are writing a scene where someone has to get into a car accident. That's your quarter like marker. That's the thing that they need to do in order for the action to change. Just go back, write the moments that lead up to that moment. They've got to run a red light. Why are they running a red light? Are they rushing? Are they maybe not paying attention? Are they thinking about something else? This is all very obvious practical plot, but that's okay. That's fine. It doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. Stories are stories are stories. And what makes it interesting is your voice being added to it and your character's voice and what you bring to the craft of writing. And so long as you're returning to the point of your story and where your characters need to go, you'll be fine. There's going to be someone out there that loves your book and loves what you've done and loves the choices you've made, whether you've chosen to savor it a little bit more and write a little bit longer, or if you're writing more of a propulsive plot. There's going to be something for everybody. I am not of the belief that every scene has to necessarily advance the plot. Some people are. That's fine. And whatever you choose to write, you're adding your own little flair to it, and that's beautiful. I have no idea if I've numbered these tips. I don't think so. I think I've just kind of talked at the camera, but we have arrived at the very last most important tip. Are you ready for it? This is the key. This is the thing that is going to get you to write your book. Are you ready? Don't overthink it. I know. Resounding, impossibly unique advice. But stop overthinking it. It's going to be fine. And you're going to have imperfections in your story. The best stories have imperfections. The more you practice writing, the more you let yourself practice writing, the better you're going to get at spotting your imperfections, because that's the other thing. They're pretty much unique to you as a writer, and only you are going to be able to spot them. I mean, that's not true. People are definitely going to spot imperfections and they're going to pick them out, and they might be a little mean, but those people don't matter. The people that matter are the people that are cheering you along, like me. And I'm here to tell you that imperfections are what make art beautiful. The more you get to know your characters, the more they're going to feel real to you, and the more your story is going to form itself around these characters that you've built in your head. And the more you're going to be able to get away with imperfections. You can get away with a lot of plot issues if your readers are rooting for your characters. Plot is but one element of storytelling, and for some people it's a very important element. For other people it's probably the least important element. The more you overthink it, the more you're preventing yourself from doing it, and you'll never get good unless you try. So let your characters wander. Write moments that are not going to end up on the draft. Ask yourself questions like, what if they go in this direction? Allow yourself to write that direction, maybe realize it's not so good, and switch gears a little bit. The writing that you have done will not be a waste of time, because it is all practice and it is essential to the process. I promise you, it only gets easier. That's not true. That is not true. It doesn't get easier, but it gets easier to pretend it's easier. So let yourself fail. Let writing be your safe place, because it's just you and the page. No one is watching. No one is there watching you. You're going to find a story. It's just going to take one word at a time. That's really the truth. It's just going to take a while. But you can do it. I believe in you. I really do. That's the only reason why I'm doing this. But I think that's all I have in me. So I appreciate you being here if you are still here. I hope this was semi-coherent and somewhat useful. Consider this a creative pep talk, because guess what? I believe in you. Trust me. Trust. I'm just gonna keep saying trust. Trust me when I say I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but I do it anyway. And if I can do it, you can do. So go out there, be creative, write your story, because we need your story. We need it. And I believe in you. So I'm gonna see you in the next video. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. And stay creative. Stay creative out there. Go write your story. Go plot. Don't overthink it. Just do it. Because I'm sure you're overthinking it. If you're here, you're probably overthinking it. Bye.